Welcome to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast, where we talk to IT marketing leaders about how to drive more sales. Hosted by Carlos Corredor, founder of Condor, an Inc. 5000 company and one of the fastest growing IT marketing agencies in the US.
3, 2, 1, 0.
This episode is brought to you by Condor, a digital marketing agency for mid-market IT services companies. Most IT marketing teams struggle to drive sales, overwhelmed by long sales cycles and an elusive audience. Condor helps you measure and generate a qualified pipeline, make the most with your budget, and finally be recognized as a revenue driver instead of a cost center. You can learn more at condoragency.com. Today, we have with us Chiala Marvici. Chiala is a fractional director for a few companies, but besides that, she has an ample experience both on the, let's say, the business side, working especially in the beauty industry at the beginning of her career, then transitioning to the marketing side and helping companies have a foundation as they go through that digital transformation phase. So we'll be talking about what that means. Besides the beauty industry, she also has experience in the real estate industry, in staffing, in IT services. So that diverse background, I think, will give us plenty to talk about, in particular, again, on that foundational phase that companies must go through, and that not all of them even pass that phase successfully, let's say, and we'll talk about what that means. But welcome, Chiala, and please, tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. So I started out in the beauty industry, 22 years. I worked for Redken, which is a company owned by L'Oreal. And as you know, L'Oreal is one of the largest companies in the world. I during that time was an educator. So I would travel, around the country, around the world, and educate industry professionals on, both technical, business, all aspects, and just how they could become more successful at their craft and, in general, running their businesses, training, facilitating all of those things. And then, so that was the majority of my career, 22 years with them. And then came the wonderful pandemic, as we all know. And it changed a lot of things for people. So we were no longer, able to have those big conferences. We weren't able to, salon industry was shut down, restaurants, all, so people had to transition and figure out how they were, one, going to continue to connect with their audience, right? And how to continue that nurturing of those relationships. And for myself, I took it as, I had a great run, had 22 years. What's next for me? One of the things that I was always a pioneer of in the beauty industry was teaching people how to promote themselves online, whether it be their websites or social media. And of course, back then, right, 15, 20 years ago, it was a much different picture when you look at the digital world. So at that time, I was a little bit ahead of the game. And not everybody got it, but it was still something that I definitely wanted to help people grow, an area that I wanted them to grow in. And so after pandemic, I started freelancing because there were a lot of industry professionals in the beauty industry and in other industries, restaurants, stores that were no longer able to have that foot traffic, and needed to readjust their strategy to, one, stay alive, to survive. These businesses, I forget the number, but there was like, at that point, I think 1,000 businesses had shut down in New York City in like 1 month, and it just got worse from there. So I started helping people out, training them, teaching them, how to grow your social media, how to set it up, how to, turn your products that you would sell in your store to now transitioning them right into like e-commerce. And so it kind of opened up more doors for me to transition into the digital marketing world. And, I love it. I absolutely love it. And then, fast forward, here I am, some years later, and I oversee several companies, as well as a personal brand, produce a podcast.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing is, I didn't know anything about staffing or IT or, another one is we have a background check company. What's interesting is I myself go through this process of research, right? And learning about the industry and learning about the audience. And then that enables me to, set up a really solid digital footprint for them.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm at today.
And let's talk about that, right? What would you say it's a minimally acceptable digital footprint?
Yes, so I think the first thing, a lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna design the logo, I'm gonna pick the colors and, this is my slogan or whatever. But I think really the first thing, priority that has to happen is understanding who your customer is, number one. Because everything has to appeal to that customer, including the logo and including the colors. So for example, we just launched a nonprofit for teen girls in India. And so, you're thinking about teenage girls, what are some of the things they like? What are the colors you like? So we actually build the brand around the customer versus building the brand and, having the customer adapt to it. So I think that's really key, is to make sure that you do a really thorough, setting up personas and really understanding who that customer is, what their actions and behaviors are, what appeals to them, and how you're going to communicate to them as well.
Mm-hmm. And I agree that a lot of times people jump the gun, and not only the logo, but then the website and a few other things, and they don't even understand their customer very well, right?
Right.
The ideal customer profile. What else? Let's say you have that down.
Yeah, you
For
got
the
that
most
down,
part.
you understand who your customer is. Now it's time to build the experience around them, right? And so obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, because I guess it varies depending on brand, but the website becomes a hub. It becomes a hub. It's not only a hub for, where you're showcasing your products and services, but it's also a hub to learn about your customer behavior as well. So I would say definitely once you get that, customer down, and now you're going to move into the branding, right? And making that branding appropriate to the audience. Once you get that down, then you're going to go in to build the website. Now, what's interesting is, depending on which industry you're in, your website interface has to be a different experience. If it's a younger audience, you might want to have more interactive, aspects on your website rather than, informational. And so again, you're designing the website for that user experience as well. And it has to be really simple, and it has to be easy to navigate. I remember, one of the websites I got to rebrand and redo was, I think it was like 140 pages. It was just massive, right? And it was like, it was pretty much a blog. Every page looked like a blog, right? And I'm like, this is not it. Nobody's going to want to sit here and read pages and pages of websites. So customizing the interface to if you also have a dashboard for your customers, how simple it is, and just understand who that person is. So definitely, getting that website where it needs to be, great user experience, and then understanding how to connect everything else moving forward to the website, right? So we want to measure like different conversions, and so setting up your Google Analytics definitely comes next.
Mm-hmm.
Getting that first and foremost. And then usually I will wait till everything's in place, and then I'll go ahead and launch the social media as well. So going back to, Google Analytics, also for somebody that's just starting out, I would definitely say, setting up that Google My Business, start your tracking right away. It takes definitely at least 6 months before you start really seeing the true numbers, right? So when you're setting up your analytics and you see like, oh, traffic's increased by 1,000, but you were starting from 0. So you have to give it some time, right, to really get accurate measurements when it comes to analytics. Yeah.
So in terms of maturity, I think we're talking about obviously the early maturity, it's nascent companies. So that's what we refer to as crawling, at the crawling phase, then walking and running. Usually crawling is, well, yeah, you need to have your positioning down. With that, then you can have a website that looks modern, that it's Google friendly, that has trust factors, any recognitions, any reviews from your clients, so you create that trust. Then you start creating content to drive traffic there, right? If you don't have that down, then you probably won't be able to, or you can, for example, run paid media, but you're not gonna get a good return out of it, right? And then if you don't run paid media for a couple of months, focus on a few core keywords, start measuring that, tie that to your CRM, then you won't be able to spend anywhere what you need to start doing remarketing, to start doing programmatic, right? So it's impossible. And then the ROI is never gonna get to be positive. At the beginning, it's always gonna be negative. But if you start small with the basis, with a good foundation, then you can start crawling and then walking and then eventually running. But if you don't have that foundations, then you're just going to flat out lose all of the other investments that you put on your marketing department. So I don't know if you have
definitely.
seen that.
Oh, absolutely. You can have a beautiful website, you can have a lot, and just to step back, jumping into that social media before you actually have the, foundation of, you have to get into search, right? We know that. And so a lot of times people will start, I've redone a few websites where I've gone in to, just kind of take a look and do an audit of it, figure out what's happening. And none of their images are tagged. And, there's just so many things that could give them organic traffic. And to your point, I think people lose touch with what it means to have that organic traffic and how valuable it can be for a business. And they jump right into and rely too much on paid media. And, I think that there's a lot of things that you can do before you're spending those ad dollars that will really help you to grow your organic traffic. Blogs are definitely a way to do that, making sure that you're putting out great content. Of course, there's backlinking as well, making sure that you're taking the time to do that. But even for somebody that doesn't maybe have that size of a team, they can do, even simple keyword search. They can use Search Console. There's a lot of free tools out there that people can use. But I think it's really just, educating people on, hey, here's just a few simple steps that you can do to grow your organic traffic. And, there's companies out there that are just starting up, right? Or they're small business. They don't have the budget, to run these ads. And then they give up on them, like you said, because they don't get a good ROI on them. And they're like, what's going on? I'm not wasting my money anymore on that. But I think really focusing, and it's funny that you use the word crawl, no pun intended, right? But it takes time, right, for Google to, index your pages and your content, and to, you have to make sure that you're using the right keywords. So simple things that they can do that don't cost a lot of money is definitely, doing that keyword search, writing blogs. YouTube is another valuable search, engine, because it is Google. It's owned by Google. And so, when someone's searching for products or services, you're going to see those videos right up there. So starting a YouTube channel right away, it's free, doesn't cost you any money. Making some quick videos or, infographics, anything, that you could put in like a slideshow, and putting it up on Google is definitely going to increase your search optimization. Yeah.
And how much have you seen now? And I think we mentioned at the beginning, but just to make sure, Kiala oversees marketing for several companies under one, let's say, investment group umbrella. And especially after COVID, as you're mentioning, right? There's a digital transformation of all companies, and a lot of companies, they have a medium-sized marketing department and can do a few more things. But I'm sure most of these companies that you've helped, they don't have, a videographer full-time and an
Right.
SEO analyst and, an email marketing specialist and a web designer. It's like almost like one person does a little bit of everything, and maybe, you have a freelance for some of it. But what recommendations do you have in terms of how to build that? Let's say you have, I don't know, a budget of $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month for one of these companies, right? As the manager of that budget, how do you recommend to invest it? Like, where should your first couple $1,000s should go to, and then how do you evolve the maturity of your marketing program?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started overseeing these several companies, I actually didn't oversee all 7 initially. It started with one, and then they said, "Hey, great job. Let me fill your plate." And so I ended up taking on, at one point last year, I was overseeing 20 companies. It's a lot, and I don't have a huge marketing team, but I chose them wisely. Let's say that. I started out by myself and just a front-end developer helping me redo the websites, and then was doing, the social media on my own, and then realized then they wanted the other companies to come in. So I'm like, okay, what's most important at this stage? And I think where you allocate your money depends on what stage you're at. If you are a startup and you're just getting going and you need, those search results, I would definitely say put your money in an SEO expert. Like, make sure, excuse me, that you have someone that is, proficient, right, in getting those search results that you need to get. And so I would say it depends on the stage. SEO, definitely, if you're just starting out, definitely invest. Now, if you don't have a huge budget, you can always hire offshore. There's a lot of people, available, all over the world, that you could hire offshore for less money. And that's one way to, I guess, allocate the budget so that you can use it for other things as well. Definitely social media, but understand which channels and you need to be on for your particular business.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if it's real estate, most definitely, so the 6 companies that I oversee for real estate are residential, right? So we know that when people are looking for apartments, they're on Marketplace, on Facebook, they're searching for, rentals on there. So that's a great channel, to have on. We wouldn't necessarily do residential real estate on LinkedIn, if that makes any sense. So you really have to, one, position your business in the right channels, right? So you're not, so you're optimizing your time as well. So you're not spending too much time working on one or the other. So again, that goes back to your audience as well. But when you're working with, that type of budget, I think it depends on where you are and what stage you're at with your business. Now, if the business is well established and has a great, search optimization, and it has a great customer base, and we're email marketing, at that point, that's where I would put my ad money into Google.
Ads.
Yeah. That's where I would spend the majority of my budget.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, so starting out, though, definitely you need to first get found. You need to be seen, and what it takes to be seen is definitely a combination of that SEO and your social media marketing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And another game changer is, AI, obviously ChatGPT. I think companies at these stages, there are marketing teams of 3 or 4 people that do less than the owner than an owner that knows how to leverage ChatGPT, for example, right? Obviously not, maybe not the technical portion, although these days, you know, I would say that there's not many things that a non-developer cannot do, including the website, a landing page, a Google ad campaign, even some of the basic SEO, although at some point you're better off having somebody to help you with. But I would say the most important things, you know, is well, the positioning in particular, right? What you say and who you talk to and the strategy behind it, and knowing and generating content for your audience. And for that, knowing how to use ChatGPT can save you an entire team of 5, I would say, if you know how to use it properly.
Absolutely.
Um,
100%. You know, a lot, everybody uses chat, right? So it doesn't matter. Even my sister, she's a school teacher. She says she uses ChatGPT to, you know, design her lesson plans, right? But I think what's really key to getting the most out of AI, right? Particularly, you know, Chat GPT is, you know, to understand what you put in is what you get out, right? So garbage in, garbage out. So, you know, learning to train the model, input the information that you want in a way that you get the output that is maybe a little more than what the average person would get, you know? So taking, you know, and understanding like prompt engineering. AI is only going to give you the quality of what you train it to give you. So there's a lot of different, people can absolutely use chat to, you know, plan all their social media posts. If you teach it the context, you know, of what it is that you want to achieve, right, then you're going to, you know, get quality results. Just one key tip, right, and this is for anyone, for layman's terms to, you know, expert marketers, is just learning to teach that model who to be. You know, for example, you can say, act as a expert social media expert and produce for me 3 posts that would help me increase my sales. You know, so putting that type of, giving it a character almost of who to be. You know, you can do anything like, you know, act as a Michelin star chef and create me a, you know, 5-star menu for this evening, having 3 courses, and then it will act as that based on its knowledge. So if you do have the opportunity to work with the paid version, it's even more amazing because it can actually read URLs. It can, you know, go outside of itself and scan the web and, you know, like for information as well. So you're able to input and train that. My chat knows me very well. And this is interesting because I don't think a lot of people understand that when you're communicating with chat, it actually starts to understand you and starts to gather all of the information that you're teaching it. And so it was funny, the other day, I was inputting something and it took something from like 12 conversations ago. And I go, where did that even come from? And I go, oh, I taught it that like, you know, 12 conversations ago. So you have the ability to train it to your expertise as well, which is unique. But yeah, definitely, you know, just taking one step and saying, you know, act as a, you know, professional, you know, copywriter, right? Whatever it might be. And it's going to take on based on its knowledge and what it's been trained on, that character.
Totally. For example, when I do it for, let's say, personal searches, I always, at the end, I always put be bold and summarize. And then I'll ask more questions if I need to. But if not, it's like, well, it depends. It could be this, it could be that. You cannot jump into conclusions. It's like, okay, now just give me the meat, you know, give me what I want to know. And that's a very simple example, again, in personal life. But then in business and in marketing, for example, we have our, let's say, 10 branding commandments, right? In our, especially from a voice and tone perspective. because if not, it will look like every other marketing material out there. Take your business to the next level and unleash and unlock and whatever. It's like, no. So we have a one pager with forbidden words. So no unleash,
Right.
no successfully, no nothing of that, right? And we've kind of learned, I'm very picky, right, in how we put our name out there, right? And then say, okay, oh, say less, say more with less. If you can say it in 3 words, don't use 5 or 10 or 15, right? So that's another thing. We have in particular in IT services and the senior people, like in the C-suite, director and VPs, they don't have a lot of time. They're really smart and to the point, right? So they simply won't read the full message if the first 3 or 4 words are wasting their time, right? So
Right.
that's another one, right? And the difference is night and day from if you ask ChatGPT, write me a headline for a digital ad to sell, digital marketing, whatever, right? Then is if you say, use this one pager to understand my audience and my voice and tone. And it will save you hours. I mean, the first version of the free ChatGPT with no commands, no special commands, is already going to save you a lot of time. But then, if you take it up a notch, that's really, in my opinion, when the magic starts to happen.
Yeah, and there's, even like, root prompts and just teaching. Also, this is something that is public knowledge. People can go online and research it and find out different prompts. You can teach it patterns. You can teach it to, I always start a new chat, because you have to remember you're training the model, right? So every time where I got that information from 12 chats back was because I didn't start a new chat, and it's taking all the information. So, just a quickie, tip would be, every time you are about to start a new, chat with it, start a new chat. And it'll say, great, what can I help you with today? So you're training it to almost clear its memory in a sense, right? And let's start something new.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely, a lot of different prompts that you can give. Excuse me, the model, to get different results, but you have to be specific. You have to say, exclude this, don't do this, and where people say, it is trained to act and think like a human. However, it doesn't always have the common knowledge or common sense, often.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about the evolution. Well, no, let's say marketing in a company's marketing maturity, also after COVID and the digitalization of what until then were mostly physical businesses. How about like in those businesses that have reached a point of, let's say, medium maturity, or that are past that foundation, right? Like in the companies that you're working on, like what do you say are today's main challenges for those?
Yeah, definitely. In particular, I think, with all the advances in AI and, machine learning, that we are losing a certain aspect of, that customer journey that is really important to me. And that is that still being able to communicate and nurture those relationships with your customers, not just through digital world, but, enhancing your customer service, taking those extra steps, because we know reviews, right? Anybody goes on Amazon and they want to, shop for a bookshelf, right? And they're going to put it in bookshelf. And, the reality is they'll pay more of a premium price for a product that has better reviews. And so I think that, sometimes people lose touch of that, that human connection, that nurturing of relationships, that, thanking people for their reviews, using those, excuse me, I have a little bit of an allergy. I hope you edit that out. Get some water. So nurturing those reviews and, those relationships, because those become your cheerleaders for the next, person that's searching those products or searching your services. So really if you're at that level of maturity, in your business, and I think really accelerating your customer service and, your customer relations is key.
Mhm. Cool. And in terms of other digital marketing areas, generating leads, the user experience, marketing automation, anything there where you would say that it's important to focus on and it's not always easy to do?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm overseeing a lot of analytics, right? I have way too many companies to oversee. But I think really that attention to detail when it comes to, the behaviors, key events, things that are happening, you need to take the time to really look at those reports and, figure out what's working, what's not working, how can you do it differently? And I think that's time consuming. And I'm sure you agree, it's extremely time consuming. It's tedious, right? But it's absolutely necessary. So if you do, and then again, we could say maybe you need an analyst, right? If you have the budget. So, if you're doing it on your own, it could definitely be time consuming. But I think if you're at that level of maturity, you could probably bring in someone, to do that for you. But that's where I would say, like, definitely, putting more energy, into.
Yeah, as you mentioned, right? When you just have the website up at the beginning, maybe Google Analytics, right? Well, not only that you need it, but yeah, maybe at the beginning it's enough. How is your traffic and maybe the conversions? But then later, you're running ads, you're sending emails. If you are not an e-commerce but a lead generation and website, then you need to follow up. Who did I follow up with? What did I offer?
Oh, it's
The
like,
content that I created, it gets out of hand really quick. And then if you don't have a solid analytical infrastructure in place, both at beginning with integrations in the between the platforms that make sense, and then reporting to understand what's happening, where are you moving the needle, where are you spending money that maybe it's not the return that you want, so you have to make some decisions there and how to change that. If you don't have that intelligence front and center, you waste half of your day just getting that intelligence in front of you, and then it's like, okay, it's already 4 p.m. and
right.
I'm tired, and so I completely agree.
Yeah, so for businesses out there that are looking for a great tool, it's worth the investment. I use SEMrush. I'm able to monitor all of the, data in one hub. I know there's other programs out there, but I particularly like SEMrush, because I'm able to connect the social and all, and like you said, there's, you're looking at analytics from here, Google, social media, and then, these and that channel and this, and your active campaign, your email marketing, and so how do you bring all of that, into one place? And so that's a tool that's been very helpful for me.
Yeah, anything else that I didn't get to ask that you think people would benefit from hearing from you?
No, I think we covered quite a bit. I feel like we could have 10 conversations. We could go, more in depth into each of these areas, but, I think just keeping things simple, really understand your audience. And I think everything will follow suit if you really truly understand, what your product does and who it serves. Then everything else should be built around that customer. And I think that's really key.
Any reference, publisher, a book, a mentor that you recommend, and that could be in marketing or in branding, in positioning, in that footprint foundation, or anything that you would recommend the audience?
Oh, well, I always loved, there was one book that I read, and forgive me because I forgot the author's name. I was so immersed in the book. It was called The One Thing. And it was truly just about being successful overall in life, but how do you balance, like, work and spiritual and, personal and self-improvement and love, right? And really to, build, and it kind of goes to what we were talking about as well, is, to focus on what is that one thing for you in your life, right? and everything else around it has to serve it in some manner, right? And I think that's kind of also a double message for what we were talking about with marketing is, you know, that one thing is really your customer. That's your bread and butter. That's, you know, your lifeline. And so everything that you do in marketing, I think also has to serve that one thing, that success of your products or your services. And, you know, I apply that in my own life as well. So yeah, the one thing, that was a great book. I
Gotcha.
read it in Tulum, sitting on looking at the ocean.
Yeah, that's not a bad place. So that one thing, right?
The one thing, yes.
The one thing. Okay.
I'll have to send you the author's name. I think it was Tim something.
Yeah, the surprising simple truth. Because you know, I just Googled it and there's also a song by One Direction. So
Oh, cool.
Gary Keller, the one thing, the surprisingly simple truth about extraordinary results.
Yes, that's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
And also another one.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I'm suffering from like allergies. Another book that I love was Tribes, We Need You to Lead. Quick, easy read. I read it in Miami, on the beach. Yeah, and I think that's Seth Godin. And is that right? Seth Godin?
Seth Godin, that's right.
Yeah, We Need You to Lead. Oh, what an amazing book. Now, you know what that book does? It really teaches you about culture. And exactly what I was talking about, you know, the businesses need to do towards the end, you know, like they're really finally, you know, running like a well-oiled machine, and, you know, they're mature and, you know, they're established. That is the key thing right there. So yeah, love that book, Tribes.
Awesome. Oh, that's two good ones. The one thing, and Tribes by Seth Godin. Well, Kiara, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It was great to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carlos. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks for listening to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed it, remember to subscribe for future episodes. Until next time.